Doing well. For those of you guys who are just coming on, caregivers, good morning. Non-caregivers, good morning. Make sure I don't have any lipstick on my teeth. We'll be here for about an hour. Let YouTube know that we are just getting on and just getting started. I have some information that we want to talk about this morning for caregivers. When a caregiver is hurting, how personal trauma affects caregiving is what we're going to be talking about today. So while they let everyone know that we are here, are you a caregiver that's hurting? Let's see. Let me just put in a question here. And you know what? The one thing I say about certain platforms like YouTube, some of this stuff I should be able to do before we actually get live. But it just seems like I'm not always able to do that. Drag here. Okay, start. Just putting this here. I'm going to drag it over there if it lets me. All right. Are you a caregiver that's hurting? Are you a caregiver that is experiencing issues, right? And there's certain topics that we're going to talk about. You know, I got my notes here. We're going to talk about health issues that caregivers encounter. We're also going to talk about mental and emotional stress, grief and bereavement for caregivers who are dealing with that. I'm very familiar with that as well because you still have to perform caregiving services even when you don't feel good, right? Even when you are going through bereavement. And then financial stress and emotional trauma history. So, as we get started, just keep those areas in mind. We are talking about caregivers and talking to caregivers. So let's just talk about some of the things that have happened this week. Number one, remember that we are having a series on our website, From Overwhelmed to Organized, for caregivers, especially if you're new to caregiving and you don't know how to structure things so that you're able to provide care to the care recipient and you're feeling some kind of way, right? Feel like I got lipstick on my teeth, and you're feeling some kind of way, you're feeling like you don't have enough organization in your life in order to provide services to the care recipient, here is what you're going to do. You're going to go to our website at www.hansoncaregivingconsultingservices.com. Thank you guys so much. You're going to register for the series Overwhelmed to Organize. We have a session today at 1 p.m. and also another today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you guys for the likes. I really appreciate it. Thank you for viewing and thank you for joining me this morning. If you are a caregiver who is hurting in some way, shape, or form, this segment today that we're discussing is for you. So drop a note, a comment to let me know where you're, providing care services, who you're providing care services to, how you were impacted, and what you're currently going through. Everybody and all of us, hello, Jack Rogers, good morning to you. Listen, this snow, this weather, a lot of us are feeling isolated. Hello, Allie, Vinny, how are you? So we're feeling isolated. We're tired. We're caregivers. Yesterday, I had planned to go live, but you know what I had to do? I had to get out there and dig out the snow, right? Now, I have support system. My family lives with me. We're here to take care of my mom. I am a full-time caregiver. Thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. Continue to tap the screen for the likes. Also, I had to get out there and help because it felt like -3 degrees yesterday. Good morning, Jack Rogers. It felt like -3 degrees yesterday. The wind chill made it so much colder. And so we had to rotate and dig out our cars because, school is out today. It was out yesterday. But when you are a caregiver, you always have to plan ahead for an emergency. So something could happen to my mom. I had to make sure my truck was gassed up and ready to go before the storm. But I also had to make sure, I'm the kind of person, if the power goes out, what am I going to do? The hospitals are not going to be reachable. Maybe we can work together to get her down the steps and in the truck, and I can keep the truck running while we get in there and get warm because this house is going to freeze up real quick. So those are the kind of things as a caregiver you always have to think about. We lose power. We've lost power before. This house gets cold. Okay. And there is no backup until they restore power. We don't have, and the one thing I keep talking about is getting a generator for the house. And that hasn't happened yet due to other things. So, we're working on it. Yeah, Jack Rogers, it gets freezing cold in this house. So I don't want anybody, I told all my children, look, you guys get your cars, top off the night before the snowstorm, right? No later than the night before. We did grocery shopping, we did everything we were supposed to, but sometimes you can't plan even for the worst, right? So you always, as a caregiver, got to think ahead. As a person, you got to think ahead. So yesterday, my whole crew got up. We realized that it was freezing out there. You can only spend so much time outside when you're shoveling that snow, and that snow had become ice. So chopping into that ice to get and break that first layer. Yesterday I had said, if the weather's nice, I'm going to go to the gym because you know I'm still on my fitness journey too, right? And so I'm sitting there going, if the weather's nice, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to work it out. Because as a caregiver, I need to be in better health and good health in order to continue to provide services. You guys tell me if you agree. I can't pour from an empty cup, right? I can't continue to put myself out there and I ain't taking care of myself. So, if you've watched my channel for quite some time, in the beginning stages, this started as a weight loss channel because I was close to an exorbitant amount of, well, a weight limit I didn't want to get to. So I've lost over 170 pounds. I'm healthier than I was before I started this journey. And so I want to get back into, I got to lose like another 50 pounds. I ain't going to lie. You know, my husband may not want me to lose it, but I want to lose it, okay? Because I feel the effects and I'm a better caregiver when I take care of myself. So I figured, yeah, it's been a journey, Jack. I'm working on it. I'm going to get to it sometime this year. That's my goal. So I'm like, I'm going to go to the gym. And then when I looked outside and saw how deep my truck was buried in that layer of ice, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere. I needed to spend time with my family digging out that snow and that ice. And so we all had to switch off. And I don't know if you guys are impacted by this weather here in the US that's been spreading across the US. Drop a like, let me know. Let me know where you are, if you have power, how you're coping. As caregivers, we have to encourage and support one another. But I'm going to tell you, we rotated because we wanted to make sure that nobody was out there too long. But I got a full workout. And then I had the nerve to come inside and do some lifting with some upper body lifting with some of the weights that I had because I am on a roll and I'm determined. Okay. So this caregiver realizes how important it is to take care of your health. But here's what this session today is about. What if you don't have that support? What if you are by yourself as a caregiver and you don't have that support system in place? We thought about the lady, our neighbor across the street. Now, she's very, very warm and kind, I should say. There have been times when we all have had something to do, and she will call and talk to my mom, right? If we all are scattered or we're going somewhere and we need someone to follow up and just make sure my mom's okay, our neighbor across the street will make sure she'll call, she'll talk to my mom. There have been times when she's running to the store. Now she sees that we're all home, right? But she'll run to the store and she'll ask my mom, do you need anything? You know, or she'll pick up something for my mom and say, I'm going to drop this off. Can someone come to the door and get it? Which I just love. Now, yesterday, we're on the sunny side of the street and she's a single woman. She's an older woman. Her mobility is still wonderful, which is a good thing. But I told my mom, call her. I told my mom, call her and make sure she has what she needs, right? When we get our cars out, we're going to make sure that she's okay. Now, because she's on the shady side of the street, she's on a block of ice. It was no way after digging ourselves out that we all had the energy or stamina. Yeah, she's a good neighbor, Jack. We didn't have the energy or stamina to get her out, and the temperatures are going to remain in the teens here. So it's not like anybody's getting dug out soon. A lot of our neighbors still haven't been able to dig out. And once you go out there and you try to dig yourself out, you're tired and you're hurting. Like today, I'm sore. Today, I'm sore. However, I look at people like her and I worry about them. So I call my mom and I say, hey, listen, make sure she's okay. Make sure she doesn't need anything. We're out. We can go get something from the store and try to get it up to her. Because a lot of people who are older, care recipients, a lot of people who are caregivers, they don't have that support. So what do you do when you're hurting and you're dealing with personal trauma and you don't have a support person in place? And if you're a caregiver, you know that that's going to impact your care recipient, right? So if you see me looking down and you're a caregiver and you are dealing with some of these issues we're going to discuss today, make sure you put it in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything that I have literally written down or typed up, and I'm looking at my notes because I want to be able to get your thoughts and opinions on this too. I also have a question up. Are you a caregiver that is hurting? Once again, if you're a caregiver that's hurting, make sure that you reach out. So we have 2 sessions today at Hanson Caregiving Consulting Services. Jack, I'm sorry to hear that. But look, we're here to give care to the caregiver. So we have 2 sessions today at Hanson Caregiving Consulting Services.com, one at 1 p.m. and one at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. From overwhelmed to organized, if you're having problems with organization as a caregiver. And the other session that we're having is right now. It's right now because we're going to talk about health issues and the emotional trauma that comes with it. We're talking about bereavement, if you are a caregiver that's dealing with bereavement, financial stress. No, you are a caregiver. No, I am a caregiver. You are a caregiver. Okay, so if you're dealing with any of these things, then this session is for you right now. And then we also have one-on-one consultation sessions with caregivers in order to assist them and finding out what they need and how to deal and build their support system that they so desperately need. I am amazed in 2026 when I hear a caregiver say, no one's there to help me and I haven't tapped into resources. So those are 2 different things, right? I have no resource, no support system. I haven't tapped into it. No one's here to help me. And so we work with caregivers in order to help them build that support system. Before I get started, let me tell you another thing that you guys can do. I put this on my channel. If you are a caregiver and you need help with transportation, you also need help with meals, housing, and even to see if you can get compensated as a caregiver, visit Elder Care Locator here in the US. There is a video that I posted that you guys will be able to view in order to get more information. But a lot of people don't know if you're a caregiver and it's within a certain income bracket. They'll refer you to the the right service where you are located in the States. You can get compensated as a caregiver, and then you can also get the assistance and support that you need as well as a caregiver. So if you have not tapped into government resources like Elder Care Locator, if you have not called the Department of Aging, these are some of the places that are there that you can tap into for those resources. We are also going to talk about later on our website calling local support agencies that will be able to give assistance. The thing about the government, though, is that, you have a referral program like Elder Care Locator, and then they'll refer you to the appropriate agency or group that you can reach out to in your state if you're a caregiver. So don't forget those resources as well. They are vital. One of the things that I realized, my mom's immobile, and so she can make it to the bathroom barely at this point, and I'm not trying to put her business out there, but I'm a caregiver and she knows, right? And so she has problems with her mobility. She's developed really extreme lymphedema, and we've been to the doctors and there's nothing that they can really do for her at this point. The pain is immense. And so what we try to do is make her comfortable. And then earlier this year, I don't know if you guys saw the video, they took her off of her opioids, right? That she'd been on for a number of years before it became a problem for many people. And so she had to wean off of that. And so the pain is intense. And so when we have to take her to the doctors, when we can get her to the doctors, it's an all day affair, right? We have the transportation service come, which is a benefit to pick her up. They get her down the steps, they get her into an ambulance of sorts where she is comfortable as possible. We get her to the facility and they will basically help us get her into a wheelchair and then they'll come pick her up and it's reverse. So it is an all day affair when she's got to do her doctor's appointments. We try to schedule everything all on the same day. So when we go to her doctor's appointment, it's not just the PCP. Like she's going to get her mammogram. She's going to go see the eye doctor, right? Because you got to plan this stuff out well. And fortunately, her health insurance program, which is Kaiser Permanente, Kaiser will work with her they'll actually work with her to schedule all of her appointments, as many as she needs to see all of her specialists in one day. So we actually go to the facility, a hospital, and we see all of the specialists that she needs to see. But without that resource of transportation, it would be tremendously hard for us to get her up and down the Oh, Jack, well, thank you for stopping by. I'll be back on. I'll be doing more lives. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for the likes. I really appreciate it. So just make sure you subscribe to my channel so you know when I'm going live again. And so, one of the things that I have found without tapping into those resources, caregivers, it's going to be really, really difficult when your care recipients, unfortunately, sometimes the progression of the disease or ailment that they're suffering from will make the need for other services that you need to tap into, right? And so, one of the things that we didn't know about was the transportation. We would see the vehicle around, but how to get those resources. So, Elder Care Locator, wonderful referral program, and there are many more that are out there. We're just highlighting that one for this week. So just make sure that you're able to call. I have a video that is on my website about it. You can get the number. I'm going to give you guys just the phone number right now. So if you have a pen and paper, you want to write down 1-800-677-1116. Once again, that's 1-800-677-1116. So that's going to help you because they're going to refer you to programs for caregivers to talk about transportation, meals, housing, and even to see if you can get compensated as a family caregiver. So make sure, and that's here in the US, by the way, I'm sorry, but make sure that you tap into those resources if you are familiar with what your needs are for your care recipient as a caregiver. Now, everyone has to realize if you're a caregiver first, right? You're a caregiver first. You're human, just like your care recipient. But long before you became a caregiver, you had a life. You were excited. You had goals, you had dreams, aspirations, things that you wanted to accomplish. And so, somewhere along the line, without any training, many of us, you just are you're put into a situation where you're giving care to someone and you don't know where to start. You're struggling. You start carrying unresolved trauma and grief, emotional, weight of your care recipient. You start getting stressed, and that's known by your tone of voice. Your patience level drops because you are hurting. As a caregiver, this is not easy at all. I will never ever tell you that it is easy. But the session that we're doing today is not about guilt. Not about guilt. You didn't cause the situation, right? But your love motivates you to help the care recipient and make sure that that needs. This session is about awareness, the support that you can get as a care recipient, and solutions. Because when you're stable as a care recipient, your care that you're giving to as a caregiver, your care that you're giving to the recipient improves, and they will thank you for it. So let's get into the first topic, caregiver health issues. So this is a wonderful thing or a dynamic about caregiving that people don't realize. Caregiving is hard on you physically, right? I'm lifting, I'm helping, I'm assisting. I will tell you in one of those many visits with my mom when we were taking her to the hospital for her various appointments, we got her down the steps okay. And at that time, we really didn't know about the service that was provided, right? And so we got her down the steps okay. I got her into my truck okay with assistance from my family members. We all have to work together as a team. The issue is when she got back home, and we tried to get her up the steps. And by this time, she was trying to even lift her legs and she was trying to get up the steps. Well, she fell. And when she fell, I broke her fall. Okay. And my knee to this day has never been right. So my right knee bore the brunt of her weight on my knee and it popped. And so I've been dealing with issues myself, right? Now, I had a moment where I screamed and I was in pain because it hurt. Thank you for the likes. I really appreciate you guys. But also, I realized at that moment how physically taxing caregiving can be. I was hurting. I still bear the brunt of that decision to try to assist her up the stairs without. Now, my other support, my other family members were here, but we were all trying to get her up the steps. We were all trying to help her. But caregiving can be physically hurtful, right? It can be physically taxing and demanding, but it also can be emotionally taxing and demanding. Now, the one thing we all have to realize is even though we want to give the best care to our care recipients, as caregivers, we are aging too, and we're getting older. And I know you don't want to hear that. I know you don't want to hear that, right? Many of us are in that sandwich generation. You did not have to go. Never mind. Okay, thank you, Jack, for for tuning in. So here's the thing: many of us are in the sandwich generation, and so what we don't realize and what we don't pay attention to sometimes is our own health, right? So I've got this elderly parent, my mom, who I absolutely love. I'm taking care of, and then I've got my family that I'm also taking care of, and I'm trying to manage everybody. I'm trying to make sure that everybody's needs are fulfilled. Now, my goal is to keep my mom here as long as possible because I'm not ready to be an orphan. Even at my age, I'm still going to view myself as an orphan. You don't have to agree with that, but that's just how I feel. I've already lost my dad suddenly, which threw me into caregiving for my mom, even more so, right? And so my goal is to make sure she's comfortable, she has what she needs. I'm constantly worried about her, and I want to make sure she's okay. Even though her body is deteriorating, her mind is as sharp as a whip, and she keeps me grounded. She is my original ride or die, right? Aside from my husband and my children, I love communicating with her. She helps keep my children in line, right? Even though several of them are grown. And so she is truly a loving family matriarch. But I'm also realizing that as she gets older, so am I. So am I. She's taking me right along there with her. And so there are chronic health issues that I'm going to start feeling, such as, tell me if you guys experience any of this: chronic pain, fatigue, or untreated medical conditions, because you as a caregiver, you're not paying attention to your health, right? And then ignoring doctor's visits because the caregiving demands is so great. I'm worried about her. I'm worried about them. I'm worried about him, right? That I'm not worried about me. And that happened to me recently. And then sleep deprivation leading to impaired functioning. So I am at this point, I do sleep, and I sleep because I work out. I know that sounds insane. When I work out, I get so tired after I've gotten myself comfortable, changed, I get so tired that I do sleep heavier. So working out as a caregiver for me has its benefits. And that's why I'm on this self-improvement journey. But for many of us, even if we work out and we're making it through the night, I'm getting a restful night, guess what? As a caregiver, I'm still not keeping my doctor's appointments. As a caregiver, I have chronic fatigue and I'm tired. And that's because I've ignored things going on with my body. So as caregivers, we have health issues, especially if you're in that sandwich generation. It's funny, I looked around, everybody else had their COVID vaccinations. And that's just as an example, right? Except for me. Everybody had the flu shot except for me, right? And so when I go down and I get sick, what do you think happens to the care recipient? Now, fortunately, I have a support system in place, as I mentioned before. But if I, as a caregiver, am not taking care of my health, then how am I going to render care to the care recipient? And I'm going to tell you guys that happened to me. If you follow my channel, that's what happened to me. I went to Africa and I was there for almost a month. I came back, I started feeling weird. Now, that was in August. So I come back, the school year has started in September. And so I go right into mom mode, right, with my youngest kids. I go right into, well, one's a high school and the other's an elementary school. We're not going to talk about how that happened. Now, so my other three oldest kids who are adults, they were helping taking care of them. And so I went right into mom mode. Okay, let me get the snacks made. Let me make sure this one has clothes. Let me make sure my mom is okay. But I started to notice that I wasn't feeling okay. But I ignored it because you know what? It's just fatigue, it's jet lag. I'll be okay. So a month goes by and it's getting worse. And as a caregiver, I'm putting it off, putting it off, putting it off because I don't want to acknowledge the fact that me as a caregiver, I'm going down. And so October and November were my down months. I posted very rarely. I felt horrible. I finally got in contact with my doctor and realized that a health condition that was manageable that I had ignored for me had come back full force. And she wondered how I was even functioning throughout the day. See, as caregivers, that's what we do. That's the danger, one of the pitfalls. We worry about everybody else, but we're not taking care of ourselves. So here's a story. Tell me if you guys, here's a scenario. Tell me if you guys can identify with this. We call her Angela. She's caring for her father after his stroke. She has high blood pressure, but keeps postponing appointments. She sleeps 4 hours a night. Anybody sleeping about 4 hours a night. She becomes short-tempered, forgets medication schedules, and Physically, she struggles to transfer him safely. Her father senses her frustration and begins to resist care. So here's what impacts the care recipient based on this scenario. Now, if you're like Angela, that means Angela has put off her care. She got high blood pressure, so you know she's not keeping her appointments. She's probably not even eating right at this point. She's on a grab and go, right? And so that's not helping her. She's stressed out. So that's not helping her. And so it causes increased safety risk for the care recipient. It causes emotional tension doing care tasks for the care recipient. And then the care recipient begins to feel like a burden because if the care recipient is someone that loves you, like her father in this scenario, then trust me, he sees the subtle changes in his daughter. So maybe she's gained 20 pounds. Her father, the care recipient, he sees it. Maybe she's short tempered and she snaps at him. Her father, the care recipient, sees it. So basically, the care recipient can't do anything because they need the caregiver's help, but the care recipient feels it. And he being a father, you never ever lose that compassion that you have for your children. He sees that his daughter, Angela, is hurting. He sees that she's hurting. And although he physically can't do anything about it because he's had a stroke, he is still impacted because of the feelings that he has for his daughter. See, no parent, no loving parent wants to see their child suffer. I don't care how old they are. I don't care how old my children get. I don't like to see them go through problems, right? In my mind, I still think that I'm super mom. I can jump in there, save the day. You know, I got an S on my chest somewhere. I'm just going to jump in there, resolve their problems, and then jump back out into my own life. And that's not how it works. That is so not how it works. And then they get to a point they don't even want you to take over. They're like, Mom, I can do it because you got a lot on your plate and I don't want you taking on more that I have to contend with. And so if you are dealing with health issues as a caregiver, here's some ways to understand what you're going through, but ways to overcome. Well, we talked about understand what you're going through. Let's look at a way or three that you can overcome dealing with health issues. I'm going to read them right from my notes. You see, I got my notes here, okay? And so I'm going to read them right from my notes because I don't want to forget anything when we're talking about this topic for healthcare and for caregivers. Schedule non-negotiable medical appointments and use respite coverage. So as a caregiver, you have annual checkups, whether you're a female or a male. You've got to see your PCP. You've got to get your lab work done. If you have specialists, get your eyes checked, get your teeth checked, right? Do not forsake your medical appointments because of the caregiving that you're providing to the care recipient. Because eventually you'll look around and your body will break down and they're going to be okay. So tap into respite coverage. Tap into getting support for your care recipient so that you can go make your appointments. Here's number 2. Implement a basic sleep routine. Set bedtime and limit nighttime interruptions. You know your phone, like the phone that I'm on right now, right? Turn it to a do not disturb setting. Make sure that no one can disturb you. Now, for me, this was a little hard to do. It's still a little hard to do because there were times when we first really started rendering care to my mom that she called me at 3 in the morning. And then I'm jumping up and I'm thinking it's an emergency. And you know what she was doing? She'd go, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's too hot up here. Can you turn the heat down? So I had to sit down and have a real conversation with her and say, listen, love you to pieces. So happy to be your caregiver. But Ma, please do not call me at 3 o'clock unless there is an emergency, right? You got a fan that you can turn on if, and you've also got a heater if you're too cold. And so before we go to bed, we'll check your temperature and check the temperature of the room and make sure that you're comfortable. But you have to understand that I have to get my sleep as a caregiver in order to provide you care. And so once we got into that understanding, it was okay and it got a lot better and we don't have that problem anymore. But that's one of the things that we talk about as far as honest and open communication with your care recipient. If you're not having that, you're not communicating effectively and then you subsequently get burnout and then you're snapping. So it's a vicious cycle, which we also can help you with. So schedule that consultation service with us at HansonCaregivingConsultingServices.com. We're here to help. And then the third one, use assistive equipment to reduce physical strain. So if you're dealing with someone who has mobility issues, there are lifts that are available that you can have installed in your house. If you're dealing with stairs, there's a stair chair or chairlift that you can also get assistance with and that help you as far as mobility with your care recipient. Let them use a walker, let them use a cane, right? Let them use a wheelchair, electrical if you can get one, right? I know some programs, Medicare will actually pay for the electrical wheelchair. So that's something else to consider. They have the chair that actually you can put the care recipient in order to help you get them up the stairs, right? It's like they have the rotating wheel. And I don't know if you guys have seen this before for care recipients who have mobility issues. Comes with a weight limit, right? But you can put them in the chair and then glide them up the stairs. And if they want to go up the stairs or down the stairs, that's something that will assist you with that. What about mental and emotional stress? This is the second topic that we're going to talk about. You've got anxiety and constant worry as a caregiver, emotional burnout and detachment. How many of us have suffered from that, right? And then irritability and mood swings. These are all things as a caregiver that you may be experiencing because it's becoming overwhelming for you. You have no support system. And I'm going to tell you something else. This mental and emotional stress can come from so many things, even watching the health of your loved one deteriorate. That that to me is the hardest thing as a caregiver. I'll be honest with you. I remember my parents when they were younger, I should say, right? I remember how they used to be. I remember the energy, the vibe, the fun, right? Now I've lost one and the other is immobile. And she's not the same woman physically that she used to be. And so mentally and emotionally, that can impact you as a caregiver. Even if you're doing this as a profession and you're a caregiver professionally working in different facilities or assigned to someone for long-term care, and you knew them maybe let's say a couple of years ago when you started and you've seen how their health has deteriorated and it is getting to you emotionally and mentally because you see this deterioration and it's starting to get to you. Are you like Marcus? So here's a story. Here's a scenario for you. Marcus works full time and cares for his mother with dementia. He constantly worries about what's next. He feels numb and withdrawn. When his mother repeats question, he snaps and then feels guilty. So, what is the care recipient getting from this kind of feeling and this contact that Marcus is displaying? What is his mother feeling? Even though she's combating dementia, it's getting to Marcus too, mentally and emotionally. He's snapping at her, right, in this scenario. So, the impact on the care recipient are these three things, some of these three things. Increased agitation in dementia patients. So, if you're snapping at them, they're wondering why. See, they don't know their condition, they don't know and understand what impact it's having on you as a caregiver. Emotional withdrawal from caregiver relationships. So Marcus in this scenario is taking care of his mom with dementia. And so emotionally, it's starting to have an impact on him and he's withdrawing from her emotionally. And then breakdown in communication. See, when he's snapping back at his mother, he's forgetting who she is. Now she's a burden and he's making her feel like a burden. She's no longer his mother. She's repeating herself several times a day. She's telling the same story. She's asking the same questions that he just answered 2 seconds ago. And it's getting to him because mentally and emotionally he's stressed out. So here's some ways that you as a caregiver, if you are working with someone who has dementia, here's some ways. I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can overcome and work with this. 10-minute daily decompression practices. Breathe. Journal if you have to, pray, or have some quiet time. As a caregiver, you have got to mentally and emotionally come to grips with the fact that dementia is what is affecting your care recipient. And if that care recipient is your mother or father, your aunt or uncle, your grandmother, grandfather, someone that you came and still currently love, and you remember them the way they used to be, it can emotionally and mentally do a doozy on you. There's no other way to say it. But you also have to realize you got to come to grips with it. They're the ones suffering from it, but you have got to accept it and learn how to work with it. So take those daily decompression breaks, right? Like breathing, journaling, pray, go for a walk. Join a caregiver support group for emotional processing. So here's a place where we can talk freely about how we're feeling. I'm helping my mom or dad who has dementia. I want to make sure that they're okay, but I'm hurting watching them go through it, and I got to get my emotions out. I have to tell you and tell somebody how I'm feeling. And so that's very important too, as a caregiver, to realize that you do have those support places, right? You do have those support groups. We we can be your support group. You can schedule a consultation with us. You can schedule a session just to vent. And you can go on our website, hansoncaregivingconsultingservices.com, in order to do that, because everybody needs someone to talk to. At some point in your life, you need someone to talk to, especially if you're a caregiver and you're dealing with, we already talked about health problems and now mental and emotional stress and trauma. You've got to have someone to talk to, because what you don't want to do is direct that to your care recipient. You've got to learn how to work through it. And then another thing, use structured daily schedules to reduce unpredictability. So, a lot of times with people who have dementia, they get used to a structure. You're not only helping the person anymore, you're going to have to treat the condition. And we talk about that in one of our classes. In fact, the Overwhelmed to Organize that we're having today at 1 and at 5 p.m., I think we touch on that as well. People have got to realize when you're dealing with dementia, the person does not remember. The person sometimes will look at you and won't even remember who you are, right? You have got to now work with the treatment plan. So if I'm not, they won't remember you, they won't remember certain situations or scenarios, but they will remember, ironically, that it's time to eat. They'll remember it's time to take their pill, right? And so you have got to have a structured daily routine so that things are predictable for them. That works a great deal. And so we do kind of go over that and how to set that up if you haven't done that already, if you're dealing with dementia. What about grief and bereavement while caregiving? So, as I mentioned before, I have lost one parent suddenly, did not see it coming, even though he was dealing with health issues and relying on me more. So here I am, I'm grieving myself, and yet I have to make arrangements for my dad's funeral, but also make arrangements for my mom. How many caregivers, how many of you are hurting in this fashion? Drop it in the comments, answer the question. How many of you have experienced this? So when you are experiencing this, here are some of the problems that you're going to be encountering. Unprocessed grief after losing a loved one. Number 2, emotional numbness or sadness. And number 3, resentment from role overload. Oh my goodness. Tell you, all 3 hit me at once, right? I can't tell you how many times at the beginning I sat and said, this is not the life I asked for. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be thrown into caregiving. But then I didn't realize I had already been a caregiver for many, many years, right? In different scenarios that we can touch on at a later time. But as far as this, I had been helping my dad. I thought, he's got some more years left. And then to suddenly get that call. So, yes, I went into resentment. It was emotional overload. And I'm going to tell you, I felt like my mom, she just fell apart. It's not like I felt like she did. She fell apart. She wanted to talk to no one. She wanted to see no one. We went through that period of extreme grief. How many of you have dealt with that? So I had to step back and realize, you know what? My mom and dad were married for almost 51 years. They were just shy of 51 years. This is why this woman is grieving him. I get it. I miss him as much, but I had no one to talk to. I couldn't talk to her about it, right? At that time, I felt like I had no one to talk to. Couldn't talk to her about it because she's the one grieving. She has the most memories of my dad. She spent more time with him. And so here I am trying to pick up the pieces. She let go of everything. She didn't want to talk about financial responsibilities. I had to make all the arrangements for my dad. I had to field all of the phone calls from friends and family. Everything was put on me, and I had emotional role overload. Then I started going through things financially, and even though they were okay and secure, it was like a hodgepodge of foolishness. My dad, who had been so good with record keeping, right, had kept hardly no records. Things were not filed. So it took me months to kind of go through papers. They call them important papers, to find out what things were in order, what needed to be addressed, and how to resolve certain issues, right? And although we had made his arrangements and things had been finalized, I can't tell you how scary and frightening that was, right? And so even though we had had conversations with my dad about what he wanted, we've had the same conversations with my mom. That experience taught me that, number one, you're never prepared. Number two, tighten it up. Tighten it up. So that if something happens to her, if something happens to me, if something happens to my kids, hey, Jack, I had to make sure that things were tightened up. So it would be a steady flow and no confusion as far as what the next steps would be. And so that's one of the things that we talk about at Hanson Caregiving Consulting Services. Really understanding when you lose someone, you got two parents, one passes away as a scenario, and you're taking care of the other, you are going to go through grief and bereavement while you're giving care to the other parent, the other relative, the other loved one, aunt, uncle, grandparent who needs your care. Let's talk about Lydia's story, right? Lydia recently lost her mother and cares for her father alone. She has no time to grieve. She becomes emotionally distant and goes through caregiving tasks mechanically. Her father senses her sadness, but does not understand it. Let me tell you, when I would cry, and I understand Lydia's story, you guys tell me if you guys have experienced that too. When I would cry, I had to cry alone. I had to cry because if I cried in front of my mom, it would break her down even more. The grief and bereavement that my mom went through with my dad was so intense that when her friends tried to reach out to her, even if they mailed her a card, she couldn't read it. I had to mediate in between all of that, right? Because I was trying to keep her stable until she was ready to be built up. If that makes sense to any of you guys, let me know. Tap a one, tap the screen, let me know. Okay, I had to make sure she was emotionally stable because when she wasn't emotionally stable, that night when we lost my dad, not only did the paramedics, I had one team working on my dad and another team working on my mom. I tell you how dramatic that was. So I'm running up and down between the two, right? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And when they announced it, they declared that he was gone, she went into, I thought I was going to lose her too. So people don't realize sometimes we all grieve differently. So friends and family members didn't realize you can't send her a card. You can't call her and ask her how she's doing because for her, her grief and bereavement was falling apart. And we were the ones that had to stay here and pick her up and put her back together. And so what that did to me, it caused more stress because now I'm the mediator. So sometimes caregivers, we're not only just the ones that are here for the care recipient, we're also the mediator. I had to mediate between her and family and friends, and then I started getting flack. They thought I was keeping them away from her. First of all, she requested, I can't talk to anybody. I don't want to see any mail. I'm talking to her about legal issues, and she's like, you handle it. It was that devastating to her, and I understood it. But my friends and family didn't. So it was told to me by several people, you're blocking us from talking to your mother. No, that's what she asked for. And I'm honoring and respecting her wishes so that she can grieve, right? And so here's some ways to overcome what you're going to be feeling during this process as a caregiver. Schedule intentional grief processing time weekly. You need time to grieve. So I had to come in my room. I would talk to my husband, right? My now husband, right? I would talk to my friends and my family. And there are times when because I'm trying to be strong for my children too, right? And so there were times where I just had to come in my room and cry myself to sleep. I still have those moments even now because that's how important and how much I loved my dad. If I were to tell you that I cried about my dad yesterday, it'd be the truth. And it's been over 3 years, right, since we lost him. So I can't tell you how much this man meant to me. And I can't tell you, the older I get, the more I start acting like him, which is funny. Because he used to tell me that all the time. You are more like me than you know. And so now I see it. I'm getting emotional. I'm going to stop talking about it. Now I see it even more. My mom sees it. She's like, you are so much like your father, which she needs, right? But what's amazing is I still had to schedule time for myself to cry. And I don't think there's anything crazy about that. Even now, when certain things happen, and I hear myself talking, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, I hear myself talking, but I sound like my dad while I'm talking, right? And that will make me emotional. So those things happen. I have to schedule time still to grieve because I miss him. There's not a day that goes by, a second, a moment where I don't miss my father. Okay. And then seek short term grief counseling. If you need it, that's going to benefit you as a caregiver because it's going to help you to deal with the bereavement and the grief and emotional issues. And then delegate at least one caregiving responsibility to create emotional space. So here's where the benefit of a support system comes in. If you are a caregiver that is hurting, if you have a support system in place and you can say when you're going through this process, you know what? I just left the funeral home making arrangements for my loved one. I need time to just, can you handle cooking dinner, or can you handle, picking this one up from school? Can you handle getting the other ones, my care recipients, medications? Can you do that? Because you need time to process it. You are still human and you need time to grieve. And that is nothing but the honest truth. Okay, enough of that before I get emotional. And you guys do not want to see me cry so early in the morning. So let's go into financial stress. Here's another pitfall of caregiving because it can impact you. And I've been through this as well. You have reduced hours or job loss because you are the caregiver. And now taking care of your care recipient has become a primary focus that you have to pay attention to. Paying out of pocket for care supplies. I done been there, done that. Been there, done that, right? Especially like I mentioned, when my mom was grieving the loss of my dad, I'm her caregiver. I didn't want to ask her for anything. So here all of a sudden, I'm noticing my savings are dwindling because I'm taking care of certain stuff. Not that she didn't financially have it, but I didn't want to ask. I wanted to make it easier on her. But I find out that my funds financially are depleting as her caregiver, and I'm wondering where my money is going, and I didn't realize what I was doing. So I'm paying for out-of-pocket care supplies or expenses, right? And then accumulating personal debt because you are paying for so much for the care recipient. See, there are things that I didn't have to pay for before I became a caregiver, things that didn't even come to mind about certain things in relation to their care or my mom's care because my dad handled it. Or, and like I said, it's not that financially she couldn't afford it. I didn't ask. I didn't do what was necessary to set things up and put a structure in place so that financially I was protected as well. And so you do start to accumulate personal debt. What about this story? If any of you have experienced this, let me know, as well as caregivers. Derek cut his work hours to care for his wife. The bills begin to pile up. He feels constant pressure and starts rushing care tasks to pick up extra work time. His wife notices his stress and feels guilty for asking for help. So, one of the main things that's not happening is communication. And sometimes as caregivers, we start thinking they need, but sometimes they don't need, and we don't realize that if we don't ask. And then when you start to see yourself going into personal debt, you've got to scale back and realize what you're doing in order to cause that personal debt. Because eventually, taking on additional work, being stressed out financially is going to impact your care recipient and the care that you're giving them because you're going to start looking at them as the burden and the cause for you being in personal debt. And sometimes those financial responsibilities do fall on a caregiver. But here's how it's impacting the care recipient. Here's some things that they will experience: emotional strain and guilt, inconsistent care routines, increased tension in the household. Now, how is that going to help them in their condition if you are a caregiver who is stressed out because of financial items and issues that you are going through? So here's some ways to overcome it. Meet with a social worker to identify financial assistance programs. Now, you can do that. You can call Social Security and get directions to right programs that will be able to help you. I am investigating some additional stuff that I want to put on our website in order to create a resource list. So that's going to be coming up later this month. And so that's one of the things that you can do. Make sure you call a social worker. Make sure you're tapping into, and I'll give you guys this information again, Elder Care Locator. They work with the U.S. Administration on Aging. If you have a pen and paper, now's your time to get it because they actually help with things like transportation, meals, housing, and to see if you can be reimbursed as a caregiver. So I'm going to give you their number, 1-800-677-1116. That's 1-800-677-1116. Now, this is simply the referral agency that will direct you where you need to and who you need to talk to in order to get assistance on any of these areas. When you call, you're going to enter in your zip code, and then they're going to be able to tell you what local resources you can tap into as a caregiver in order to get assistance for your care recipient. Now, why is this important? Because we're talking about financial stress. So if I can tap into a resource that's going to help me financially with transportation, help me financially with housing, help me financially with meals for my care recipient, help me financially to get paid for the caregiving services that I'm rendered, why would I not tap into that resource? So think about that as well. Another thing, track caregiving expenses for possible reimbursement or tax deductions. So some of the expenses that you put out, you can claim as a tax deduction, and explore remote or flexible income options. Those are things that you can do as a caregiver to make sure the financial stress is not overwhelming on you. So our final topic, because we're getting close to an hour, I've got like 10 minutes left, is emotional trauma history. So I'm giving care to this person, and let's be real, there are some parent-child dynamics or some spousal dynamics where we're not really, or even relatives, period, we're not necessarily close anymore. There's been some issues that we've had in the past, and now I'm your caregiver, and I've got to deal with being your caregiver. How is that going to work? Because some things that could be creating a problem if I'm experiencing emotional trauma history is one, past family conflict resurfacing. So you and I never got along. Never. I don't care that you are my brother or sister, cousin, aunt, relative, but now I got to be your caregiver. So that could be an issue too. Childhood trauma triggered by caregiving role, right? So I'm remembering things that you said and did to me when we were younger as children, and now I got to be your caregiver. Yeah, that emotional trauma history can be a hot mess. And then difficulty setting boundaries. So you're the older sibling and I'm taking care of you, but you still talking to me like we two. That may not work for me. I'll be honest with you. That may not work for me. So here's a scenario. You guys tell me if you are familiar and you can identify with Nicole. Nicole is caring for the same parent who was emotionally distant in her childhood. Old wounds resurface. She feels anger, but also obligation. Care interactions become tense, right? So now she's stressed out because she's got to take care of her parent who was emotionally distanced from her in childhood. They weren't close. There are some family dynamics where you're not close to your parents, you're not close to your sibling, you ain't close to your aunt and uncles, your cousins. You know, you're not close to them. But now you find yourself in a situation where you're going to be their caregiver. No matter how it happened, now you're their caregiver. So when you are in that situation, here's some things that can impact the care recipient. One, escalation of conflict, right? Something that you remembered, something that was triggered. Now I'm angry with you. There's, conflict. You bucking against me and I'm bucking against you. We're not getting along. We can't get anything accomplished because we really don't like each other. And then number two, caregiver emotional exhaustion. I'm emotionally tired from fighting with this person all day. I'm hurting. If I say it's time to take your meds, there's resistance. If I say it's time for you to be bathed, there's resistance. If I tell you there's time for you to sit down and take a nap and just relax yourself, there's resistance, right? And I'm saying this in a nice tone, but because we have some emotional trauma history, we don't see eye to eye. And everything I ask you to do meets with some kind of conflict. And emotionally, I'm tired. Reduce quality of interaction. So therefore, I'm not communicating with you anymore. I'm not saying anything. Now, the horrible thing sometimes that we do as humans is instead of talking to that person and communicating effectively, we go around and talk to everybody else. So I didn't call mom, dad, I didn't call, my brother, my sister to talk about what I'm going through with this one family member. Instead of really sitting down and finding ways to communicate with that family member effectively so that I'm in control, but they don't feel that loss of control. When you're taking care of an adult, you want to make sure that there's mutual respect in the caregiving relationship. And so if you're having problems with that as well, that's something that we assist you with at Hanson Caregiving Consulting Services. We are there to help you learn how to have those tough conversations and communicate effectively between the caregiver and the care recipient. So ways to overcome it, trauma-informed counseling. That's number one. Number two, set structured caregiving boundaries and schedules. So we may not agree with what is going on when I need you to take your medicines, but if we have sat down and come up with a schedule and we have set boundaries, it's something we both agree on. Hopefully, both of you all will be able to respect it and adhere to it, and it will benefit both of you. Use neutral communication techniques. I can't talk. Task focused language. All right. So if I say to you, it's time to take your medicine, I'm not going to say, come on, take it. I'm going to say, okay, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Remember, this is time for your medicine. So let's get up, or let me get this medicine for you so that we can take the medicine after you eat your breakfast. Task, focus, technique as far as language and how to help that person who is your care recipient. So here's the key takeaway from this whole segment, this whole thing we did today, this whole live we did today as far as caregivers. When you ignore your own trauma, stress, grief, or health, you're in survival mode as a caregiver. You're totally in survival mode. And then stability for the caregiver creates stability for the care recipient. Remember that. If I, as a caregiver, am completely stable, if I am doing well and I am functioning well, I'm taking care of my health, myself mentally and emotionally, I'm not stressed out, I'm taking care of myself financially, I've set those communication boundaries, I'm getting appropriate rest, and I'm also just feeling that I'm in a sense of control when dealing with my care recipient, then that brings joy to me as a caregiver and helps the dynamic of our relationship when I'm dealing with my care recipient. So if our discussion today, if you're watching this morning or if you watch it later on, if it resonates with you, you don't have to navigate this alone. Once again, at Hanson Caregiving Consulting Services, we're helping caregivers develop personalized, emotional, practical, and planning strategies so that caregiving does not cost you your own well-being. Schedule that one-on-one consultation with us to learn these different techniques, and we can create a plan that's tailored to your situation as a caregiver. That is so important. So, this is your girl, Essie, your caregiver coach. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really hope that you're able, I'm going to repost this live so that people can get the information. And then I hope that you're able to get the support that you need. And if you don't have the support you need, remember to call us. If you're hurting as a caregiver, remember that we are here for you as well. And we're here in order to help you set up processes and systems. You have them in place when working with your care recipient so that you don't have burnout and mental stress, emotional stress, financial stress. Thank you for taking the time with me once again this morning. Remember to like, follow, repost, and share, because the caregiving community is a big one. It's a vast one, and we all need that support. And then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for your support. Once again, this is your girl, Essie, your caregiver coach. I'm out.